Dear Sophie, first of all, I want to tell you that I love you and that I will always love you. There is nothing you could do or say that would ever make me feel different. My love for you is unconditional. Fear, as we all know, is very powerful and has the ability to cause us to do things we normally wouldn't. It caused me to live most of my life being the person I thought my family and friends would like and love, not the person that I am. Now, I want you to finally get to know a part of me that I have kept hidden by my fears. "18 years ago, I met someone who little did I know would change my life and make it better than I ever imagined it would be. That person was your mother. Our subsequent romance was so intense, the emotions I felt for her brought to the surface of my consciousness things that I had tried to suppress and hide. I believe they came to the surface because I knew that if I wasn't completely honest, the pain I might cause would be unforgivable. So out of deep respect for her, in complete honesty and pure love, I told her that I was attracted to men. As I said earlier, fear is a powerful emotion. It has stood in my way far too long. It caused me to only show the parts of me that people would accept. It made me feel that I couldn't trust anyone to love me for all that I am. I'm done with that. I now know that I can be open with the people I love with knowing that I'm gay. I want to help you in any way that I can to understand that I am and always will be your dad. I love you, Sophie, and I thank you for loving me."
A modern motion picture camera photographed the traffic in action, while the Daguerre camera, the great-great-granddaddy of all cameras, was used to photograph the buildings alone. The action of this camera is so slow that there is Why use the Daguerre camera? To show that any picture of America without automobiles is hopelessly out of date.
In the motor capital of the world, they're trying something new in a campaign to make careless drivers and absent-minded drivers and jaywalkers safety conscious.
And there'll be a lot
like
of
this.
changes taking
Please,
place.
lady. Always look at the traffic signal before you step from the curb.
You know,
Red signal light means that pedestrians as well as motorists.
My name's Jim Kruz. I'm 56 years old. I'm the third in a family of 4 brothers, and I grew up in the city of Detroit. Well, we're in my old neighborhood where I grew up. Just went by the old church, St. Andrew's. And I'm going to turn around and head back towards the house where I grew up. But it's interesting to see the neighborhood.
Does it look different?
It looks very different from 40 years ago. A lot has changed, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
It was a fun place. There was about 50 kids on the block because they're all 2-story houses, and everybody had at least 5 kids in the house, upstairs or downstairs. And the kids all played together. It was fun. Mm-hmm. And all the mothers ganged up on the kids. Mm-hmm. It took a neighborhood to raise all of them. Yeah, but they had fun.
The neighborhood that I grew up in was a Polish neighborhood, and there were it was a really strong Polish community, and it was a very safe neighborhood, and it was a very comfortable place to be. I mean, I always felt safe there. I always felt comfortable there. The streets were really, the neighborhood streets were really well kept. All the homes were well kept, and the lawns were always kept very neat and almost manicured, and so it was a great place to grow up. Church was a pretty important part of the neighborhood, I think. Everyone in the neighborhood belonged to the church. It was kind of the focal point. All the kids went to the Catholic school and church on Sunday, and there were all the religious holidays. And I went to school in, well, to start out with, I went to a Catholic school for kindergarten, first and second grade. That was St. Stephen's. And then after second grade, my parents moved us to St. Andrew's Elementary School and finished 9th grade in Catholic school in Detroit.
Well, they went to a parochial Polish parish school.
And that's the way we were brought up, so we felt our children should be brought up the same way. Catholics.
You went to the same school that the boys went to.
Yes, I did. St. Andrews.
Catholic schools, there was elementary school, you had your math, your science, you had your English classes. The nuns wore the full garb when we were there. We had the Felician nuns teaching us at the time.
Church was nice. It was something that I grew up with, and it was comforting to some extent because it was familiar, and there was music, and there were smells from incense and candle wax and a variety of other things that really trigger your memories, and so it was a positive experience for the most part. I have to say that the priests and the nuns and some of the other more religious people involved with the church were a little difficult, very strict, very demanding. So there were parts of it that weren't so great.
Some of the nuns, they were strict. Some of them, if you were goofing around in class, they would take the rulers out, knock you on your knuckles. Or they make you go sit in a corner in the far end of the class. Or if you were really bad, they would make you kneel, and that was an experience.
We had quite a lot of religion taught to us, dogma and tradition and things like that. And there was a lot of things that you weren't supposed to do or supposed to think about or be involved in, because it was, a lot of times everything was a sin. Not everything, but a lot of things were a sin, And being raised Catholic, if you had sins and you died, you were going to go to hell. So there was always this underlying threat to everything that you did and everything that you thought, that if you weren't good and if you didn't behave according to the expectations, that you would go to hell when you died, unless you confessed your sins.
When you get older, you probably want to get married and start a family.
Say, when should a guy start going around with girls?
Oh, there's no real answer to that. Whenever you feel like it, I guess. Maybe the first time you'll want to ask someone to a party or a dance. Maybe you'll need a partner. But there's no special age, just like there isn't any special reason for taking a girl out. Most guys just like female company. Well, that's it for today, fellas. Let's get out to practice, huh?
When I was growing up, there were a few boys, but not very many, maybe one or two that I remember that I was drawn to. Not sexually, though. It was really just drawn to them because they were fun to be with, or they were my age, or there was some common thing that we had going on. And so they were my friends. They were really very good friends, my best friends. And in terms of me feeling attracted to them physically, it wasn't until I think I was a little bit older, I don't know, maybe 7th, 8th grade, I started to recognize there was something else there. But it was not anything that I really understood or knew what to do with. And in terms of, what boys my age were supposed to do, they were supposed to be with girls and date girls. My first girlfriend was like in 7th grade, I think, official girlfriend. And then after that, I had girlfriends, throughout middle school and high school, like most everybody else did. But I wasn't sexually active with them. It was really just going out and doing things as friends, groups of friends, and you make out and stuff like that, but you didn't really get into the more, sex.
The involvement with other people of the same gender, nothing was ever like that. We had kids that were kids, they were out playing in the neighborhood, they were hanging out, basically. But no, nothing of that was ever brought up or even thought of back then.
The fellas were pretty busy all spring, working out for the team and with their schoolwork. But they had time for other things, too.
Say, how would you and Barbara like to go swimming tomorrow?
We'd love to.
Jim and I thought we'd go over the lagoon.
Hey, that'd be swell.
Hey, why don't we all bring something to eat? We could stay all day.
Okay, I'll take something.
Hey, great. How about a big old chocolate cake?
Oh, I don't know. We can try.
Well, anyway, we'll start about 9, okay?
Well,
Bye.
In Detroit in the 60s, what was your awareness of homosexuality or what it was?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
How about you, Papa?
Well, it was, I didn't hear of it that way as gay and this and that, but there was bars where we thought, we didn't call them gays at the time, but I don't even remember what they called them, but that's where they hung out. And it was nowhere near our home or our area.
It was downtown Detroit.
Yeah. So we really didn't know too much about it.
Well, at the time, it was like people wanted to avoid them. They thought there was like a disease or something like that. They just wanted to stay far away from them as possible.
They weren't very happy with them. And I guess the gays were kind of scared because they got beat up and spit on and everything else, so they kept to themselves. They would keep it a secret.
I think in general that most of society, when I was growing up, looked at gay men, looked very down on gay men quite severely. I don't think that, well, I know that gay people were not accepted virtually at all at that time. I never really heard anything about gay people that was positive. I never saw anything that was positive about gay people. The way young people, my friends included, perceived gay people, and myself included, it was that there was something wrong with them. And that's what we grew up with. That's what we knew. That's what we believed. There weren't gay role models for young men to understand or relate to or have any other kind of perception or perspective on. And I don't think that that was even the case for my parents or even other adults. I think that it was just this perpetuated belief system that, gay people, there was something wrong with them and that, they're just different.
Bobby recognized the stranger as the man in the restroom, the shortcut under the pier didn't seem like a good idea at all. After all, it's more fun to stay with your friends anyway. Bobby had made a wise decision. It may have saved his life. The decision is always yours, and your whole future may depend on making the right one. So no matter where you meet a stranger, be careful if they are too friendly, if they try to win your confidence too quickly, and if they become overly personal. One never knows when the homosexual is about. He may appear normal, and it may be too late when you discover he is mentally ill. So keep with your group, and don't go off alone with strangers unless you have the permission of your parent or teacher.
Sleeves rolled up, Detroit levels and shifts and carves the contours of a new city. And a new spirit of progress.
To men and women who design. Our own free spirits and desires for the colorful things that spell sheer fun.
The News has been angling many of its stories directly at Detroit's youth. The editor of the feature department. The editor of the feature department makes a special point of view. An approach that gets at both sides of the question. In this case, there was an obvious way to do it.
I moved to Ann Arbor in 1977, and I moved here to go to school at the University of Michigan. When I moved here, I didn't consider myself to be gay. And I don't know that I would have really considered myself to be gay or allow myself to think that at the time. Even though Ann Arbor was a diverse and welcoming place to a lot of different kinds of people, it just wasn't the right time, I think, when I first moved here.
My name is Vicki Honeyman, and I am a very old and dear friend of your dad. We first met when he moved to town to get a degree through the film and video program, and I was the administrator there. So he came in to find out about taking classes, and we became friends, and so I'm basically his first friend in Ann Arbor.
My friend Vicki, who I love dearly, she really introduced me to Ann Arbor. I mean, she really kind of took me by the hand almost and introduced me to all the people that almost all the people that I'm still friends with today.
Jim and I just always hung out and did stuff together, and I discovered at a party that he could dance. So I said, well, I'm going to have you be my dance partner. So I taught him how to jitterbug, and you know, the rest is history. There were so many great places to go out dancing, and Jim and I would go out dancing. So, and people would go, they'd be like kind of blown away because we were really this natural together, like bread and butter.
We go to bars, we go to parties. We started dancing and doing this jitterbug thing more and more and more, and it got to the point now where we were really good. At one point we even got very acrobatic and started doing flips and various other things, and we had a great time with it, and people loved it, absolutely loved it.
So we actually would rehearse to learn how to do this fancy stuff. Like one was where I would flip over his back and wind up hanging upside down like a monkey on his arm, and then he'd flip me around and I'd like nearly hit the floor with my head, and it was really, really amazing. We started doing these competitions and winning first place, and somebody at Life magazine saw it, and they were putting together this issue on the revival of the 50s which was just kind of goofy. But David Turnley, the photographer, was hired to shoot us to be on the cover. We didn't get on the cover because this actress got on instead, but we had this 13-hour photo shoot in 4 different locations with, you know, changing my outfits and changing my hair and all this stuff. But we got into Life magazine, which was really funny.
It was kind of uncomfortable for me to be known and recognized, but I didn't know who they were. They said, "Oh, that's Jim Kruz. He's the jitterbug guy." And, you know, it was like, "Oh, yeah, hi." Kind of awkward for me to be a little bit of a celebrity, considering how I felt about, you know, the mini celebrity status that I had as a jitterbug instructor around town and getting that kind of attention. I think that kind of almost is has somewhat of a parallel to, you know, the kind of attention that I thought would come to me being gay. I didn't want to be different. I just wanted to be like everybody else.
Well, I met your dad the first time was at a flannel shirt party. It was for Matthew Graff, and my friend Karen Gorman, she recommended that we go to this party. She thought it would be fun. I had just moved to Ann Arbor maybe a few months before that, and we went to this party, and she had told me about your dad because she knew that he taught jitterbug, and she thought that might be a fun way for me to meet some people in town, and she knew I liked to dance. Your dad was at the party, and I saw him and I thought, oh, there, you know, she said, there he is. And I thought, oh, great, I'll go say hi to him. So I went up to him and I talked to him a little bit, and he was kind of standoffish, not really that friendly. So I didn't really know what to think of him. I wasn't really that interested or anything. I mentioned to him that I'd be interested in taking jitterbug. And he said, oh, great, you know, and that seemed to really, he didn't want to talk about it, it seemed like, which I couldn't really understand that. So, but I thought, well, I don't care, I'm still going to go to his class, so.
So, we're teaching at Joe's, and we always ask people to come as couples if they could, because it's a couple dance. And this woman signs up. She had called and said, well, I don't have a partner, and said, well, don't worry, maybe there'll be some men who don't have partners, and you know, we'll figure it out.
Well, when I got there, they said there's no one that came that's single. So, and there wasn't anybody that signed up that was single.
I asked my boyfriend, who was the head of the Blue Front Persuaders, Steve Wethy, the piano player, and the front man, the performer. I asked him to be her partner.
I look over at Steve Wethy, and he's a really cute guy that he played in a lot of band, you know, he played around town a lot in a band, the Blue Front Persuaders. And so I had seen him around town, and I loved his music. I loved, you know, the band and everything. So I couldn't believe that I'm going to get to dance with Steve Wethy. He's going to be my partner. I thought that was great, you know.
So I quickly caught on that she was totally geeked, that she got to dance with the coolest guy in town.
So we were having a great time. He was showing me a lot of jitterbug moves, and we were really laughing it up and just having fun. And I remember Vicki came over and said, so this is Steve Wethy. He's my boyfriend and we live together.
I grabbed him and said, he's my boyfriend. Jim, you dance with her.
So it was kind of funny. So she kind of indicated, I guess, that she didn't really like that we were having too much fun. I don't know. But anyway, she suggested to your dad that he come over and dance with me. And I started dancing with your dad, who obviously was a great jitterbug dancer also, because he's teaching the class.
Afterward, I was kind of interested in Deb. So I ended up, after I think the second or third class, I asked her to go out for a drink afterward. And we went to the old Crack Crab and we had a drink. And that was kind of the start of our relationship.
progressed pretty slowly with your dad. But we eventually did sleep together, and we had a normal relationship.
I think when I met your mother, I was at a point in my life where I was ready for a serious relationship. And I met your mom, and I was very attracted to her, and I really felt a connection with her. And so I thought this could be it.
We just really worked well together, I think. You know, your dad liked to cook a lot, and I loved to eat, as all my friends know. So it was great. You know, it was kind of, he would love to make meals and have people over and that type of thing, and entertain, and I thought it was great.
Once we moved in together, we did talk about marriage, and we talked about having a plan for our life. And there was something inside of me that when we started to get really serious about being together, that triggered something inside of me that made me realize that what I was hiding from her, this attraction to men, was the wrong thing. And that if I didn't tell her about it, that it was going to be a huge issue if we continued down the path that we were heading down. So I think it was after about a year, yeah, it was about a year after we moved in together, that I told Deb that I had an attraction to men, that I had not really acted on it, and I didn't want to act on it, but I just felt like I had to tell her that.
We decided that it would be a good idea to see a therapist. I think in the back of my mind I thought, yeah, let's just make sure that we're doing the right thing. You know, when you're in love with somebody, you tend to overlook maybe things that you should think about a little bit more. I guess I went with my heart instead of my head on this.
I realized that, you know, after being in therapy for a while, that I could conceivably manage to continue to have these feelings about men, but still not act on them and have a quote-unquote normal life.
We both loved each other, and we wanted to be together. We wanted to have a family, so we got married after that.
We're all set. Ready to do this.
Ready to go.
See you later.
Pam, thank you for doing that. Sure, no problem. Does Nancy need it? Are you videotaping this?
I give you this ring.
I give you this ring.
As a sign of my love.
As a sign of my love.
My respect.
My respect.
And my loyalty.
And my loyalty.
I give you this ring.
As a sign of my love.
As a sign of my love.
My respect.
My respect.
And my loyalty.
And my loyalty.
And now it's my distinct pleasure to declare, in the presence of all who are here, that because of the obvious love and respect you bear for each other, that you, Jim, and you, Debbie, are indeed husband and wife. Kiss each other.
We had a great wedding. It was a lot of fun. We had all of our friends at the wedding. It was in Dearborn at the Henry Ford estate. And it was just wonderful. The music was fantastic. We had a live band, and it was really perfect. then on our honeymoon, we went to Jamaica, and we just had a blast in Jamaica. Absolutely had a blast. It was a lot of fun.
We came home from Jamaica and we talked about, the future and what we wanted to do, and so we came up with a 5-year plan. And so we kind of knew what was mapped out for us for the first 5 years, which was for me to finish graduate school, and then have a baby, and sometime during that whole time buy a house as well. And we did all that.
Come on, come and get your rattle.
Well, of course, having you was a wonderful addition to our marriage. And your dad is a great father, and I tried to be a good mother.
Go see Dad. Go see Dad. Yeah, come on.
But because your dad is kind of a homebody, he liked to cook, and he liked having a child to take care of. I think he really enjoyed all that.
Hey. Dad and Sophie.
But we had a lot of fun. We would go on family trips together. We'd go down and see Mima and Papa in Florida, go to Disney World. We just loved doing all the stuff with you. That was just one more thing to have fun and do together.
Come here. Come here.
And so it was really quite an exciting and busy time. And as you got older and started growing up, our lives became busier and more complicated. Just with having a child, it requires so much more involvement on so many different levels.
I guess after we had you, and things kind of slack off maybe in the relationship department in the bedroom, and maybe that happens to everybody, but I guess I worried about that. What did it mean? And then it just went on and on for a number of years that way. And it just became obvious to me, at least I thought that it was obvious that he maybe really wasn't that attracted to me, and maybe it was just the whole excitement of the first years of our being together and marriage that kind of kept things together in the bedroom, and it just seemed to be harder and harder that way. So then I kind of started worrying about those things.
Sophie, you've been asking me a lot of questions about our family and me coming out, and I wanted to have a chance to talk to you and find out how you felt about a few of these things. So why don't you tell me how you felt when Mom and I told you that we were getting divorced?
I remember really clearly I was 13, and I remember Mom asked me, how would you feel if Dad and I weren't together, if we got a divorce? And I remember looking at her and really seeing how sad she seemed. And I asked her, it's really bad, you can't work it out? She said, I don't think so. I said, are you really unhappy? And she said, I'm really unhappy. And I said, I guess it would be okay.
I think at the time when your mother came to me and said that she wanted to get a divorce, it was pretty apparent to both of us that it was something that we needed to do. I had convinced myself that I could stay in this relationship, and I think I did so because I thought it was safe, because it was something that allowed me to have what I considered a normal life at the time, but it really wasn't. I mean, we weren't happy at the end. And so it was appropriate that we talked about it and then what we decided to do.
Maybe because I was the one that really felt like it was time. Maybe I felt like it was time more than he did. It wasn't his time, it was my time.
I don't think he was ready for it.
He wasn't ready. But afterwards, I think he realized that it was the right thing. But it was just hard, and it was extremely hard. Even though I was ready to move ahead with it, it was still extremely difficult for me to go through with it.
Why was it so hard?
Well, because you have a marriage with somebody, you have a life with somebody, you have a child, you have your friends together. It's just hard, you know. It's heart-wrenching. Because it wasn't that I didn't care about your dad. It was just that I didn't think we should be together anymore.
One of the hardest things, though, too, was our friendships. The friendships that I had before I met your mom, and those friends became her friends as well. And after I moved, we told them that we were splitting up and I had moved out. There was a gradual division of friends between taking sides, I guess, with one or the other, with me or your mom. And I saw what was happening, and it was really upsetting to me that people were doing that, our friends were doing that, because they did it only because they were trying to be loyal, and I didn't want them to think that there was something bad or that your mother and I couldn't get along, but they didn't understand why, because they didn't understand why we broke up. We just said things didn't work out.
It was very difficult for us as a group to have Jim and Deb come to an end, because we were all, this big family, and that was going to be a big change, and that was really hard for people. A lot of our friends looked at their own relationships and their marriages and questioned the validity, and wow, could this happen to me?
I saw how hurt Mom was, and how it seemed unfair that, she was getting all the blame for this, and that I felt like neither one of you should be blamed. So I remember feeling like I needed to protect her.
One day, I called over to their house to talk to Jim, and Deb answered the phone. And I said, "How is Jim doing?" And she said, "How is Jim doing? Well, what about me? It's hard for me to have Jim still living here." And I said, "Well, hard for you, what about Jim?" I didn't realize this until later, but at that point, I guess Jim was in the backyard working in the garden, and Deb went outside to get him. But before she had him come to the telephone, she said to him, which I found out later, "Jim, enough of this. Even your best friend doesn't know why we got divorced."
After your mother and I divorced, I was in a very vulnerable place emotionally, because I wasn't out to anybody. I was dealing with this, internal stuff. Sherry was the catalyst for me to actually deal with it, even though I wasn't ready. In my own mind, she knew that I was ready to deal with it. And so she asked me again, after having asked me prior a couple of times, to take this course at the Center for Life Enhancement. The Center for Life Enhancement is a place in Monroe, Michigan that offers different courses to people who want to make changes in their life. And one of the courses is the Living course, which is the course that I took when I went there.
You go to the course to better yourself and to find out who you are, what direction you want to go in life, if in fact should be a change. No one in the course tells you what you should do or even gives you suggestions, but you go through a number of routines that shows you what is out there for you in life.
It was just something I said, yeah, I'll do it, because I guess unconsciously searching for some way of being able to reintegrate myself into a life that I would be happy in.
Did you think that you would come out at this course?
No. No. As a matter of fact, I did not even intend to address my sexual orientation in this course. The process that I went through in the course room was pretty intense. It was a lot of going back and looking at experiences in childhood and perceptions that you had or were taught, and looking at them from a different point of view, from an adult point of view rather than from a child's point of view. For example, you know, the things that you heard about when you were a kid about gay people, it was all negative. And what I know about gay people as an adult is very different. So I was able to process that in a way that it showed me, oh, that there's all of these things from when I was a child and all these messages that I received that were wrong. So there was a lot of different things that had to be dealt with, all those emotions, and they were dealt with in many different ways. You know, the sadness, you know, of, you know, looking back at my whole life and how I didn't live my life as who I am. I led a life that I thought others wanted me to lead. So that was kind of sad. So I had to deal with that. There were a lot of emotions experienced in that course room, and it's hard for me to put a finger on any one that was more powerful than other than I think just the fear. I overcame the fear of accepting myself as a gay person, I think, by realizing that I'm the one that's in control. I'm the one that has the power to decide what I want to be, who I want to be. And that what other people thought really didn't matter. If they really truly loved me, they would still love me. One of the things that I had committed to do in that course was to, within 2 weeks, to come out to 4 friends to just kind of test the water, see what was going to happen. And I had decided how I wanted to do it, and I asked my friend Vicki if she would be willing to host a little group of friends at her house so I could tell them the real reasons why Deb and I broke up.
So, we go to Vicki Honeyman's house for this gathering. We walk in, and it's this gathering of friends that have known each other at this point for, I guess, 25 years, you know, just amazing, right? And Jim comes out of the kitchen. So he proceeds to tell us the most amazing story. I mean, the most amazing story. His love for Deb, his love for Sophie, but that he could no longer deny that he was gay.
It was very, very moving and beautiful, because nobody had ever had any reason in our friendships, in our relationships with each other, to talk about such an intimate thing. And to be so deeply honest and just, I'm zipping up myself open and I'm exposing myself to you and I'm asking you to accept me.
All of these people I knew loved me. So it really wasn't something that I needed to be worried about. It was just something that was very unnerving to do. But once it was done, it was like, why did I wait so long? Why was it so hard for me to get to this point? And I don't really have a good answer for that. I called my mom and dad up on the phone, and they were in Florida. And my mother answered the phone, and she could tell there was something going on in my voice.
I answered the phone. He says, I want to talk to both of you. I remember that.
And she said, well, he's out golfing. Tell me what's going on. And I tried to resist, but then she convinced me to tell her, and I told her, and
I said, oh.
Did you know what it was?
Oh, yeah.
Were you okay with it? Were you confused maybe?
Well, we were told about it, we accepted it, and never changed anything about him, between him and I. Still love him like I always did.
Same with me. He's still our kid. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Not to us. But it was terrific change for him to be able to do that. And I thought about how long did he know he was. But it was good that he did do it, get that load off his back.
We didn't think anything. You know, you were born, so we thought
we're grateful we had a
fine.
granddaughter.
Yeah.
I'm glad for that marriage.
Let's talk about the day that I came out to you. Let's describe that day, what you remember from it, and your feelings. How'd you deal with those feelings that day? And then you can maybe talk about in the coming weeks and months how you dealt with it.
You sat me down right over there, and you had a letter, and you started reading it, and I think you got about a quarter of the way in, halfway in, and then I stopped you because I knew. I think you said maybe I am attracted to men or something like that, and that was all I needed to hear. And I don't think I ever let you finish the letter.
No, you didn't. You went upstairs for about 15 or 20 minutes, and I just sat on the couch where I was when I told you, because I was kind of like wondering, okay, what's going to happen next? And you went upstairs for about 20 minutes, and then you came down, and you seemed really calm. You seemed like everything had just... And I said, so what's going on? And he said, I just went upstairs, and I did a little writing. I said, oh, what did you write? Just what I was feeling. And I said, can I see it? And he said, no. I said, okay. And then I just sat where I was at. I didn't move. And then you, I think, went and got a drink of water or something, and then went back upstairs. And about 5 minutes later, you came back down and you handed me what you had written. And I remember that what you had written was kind of a stream of consciousness. And one of the things is that don't cry, because I was crying when I was reading the letter to you, and you didn't want me to cry. It really upset you, it seemed like. And I think there was more, you were more concerned or more unhappy that I was so sad. But I really wasn't sad. It was just kind of a release for me to get this out and not be holding it in anymore. And I think that when you did let me see what it was, I realized that you were okay with me being gay. There wasn't really anything about it. It was really just about me being upset, and you didn't want me to be upset.
Yeah.
Now, this struggle, I don't need to tell you, is incredibly difficult. Although I think it's important to consider the extraordinary progress that we have made. We are all witnesses to monumental changes in this country. That should give us hope, but we cannot rest. We must continue to do our part to make progress step by step, law by law, mind by changing mind. And I want you to know that in this task, I will not only be your friend,
Grapefruit chat. So, like, if ever somebody else, who was it the other day talking about your drink that that had the recipe?
Oh, Jill. Jillian.
Oh yeah, that Jillian. Yeah.
Jillian, the British Jillian?
Yes, that's right. We ran into her.
I think my relationships with my family and friends since I've come out are much stronger. Being able to be honest and expose yourself to your friends or family only allows them to be closer to you.
This is Jim's signature drink that everybody in town wants to have the recipe for.
But do not tell anybody?
Nobody will ever get it. When was the last time
You know, I still love your dad, and, you know, it's different in a different way now, you know, but I still really care about him, and I wish the best for him, and I want him to be happy.
Dear Dad, first of all, I want to tell you that I love you, and I will always love you. There is nothing you could do or say that would ever make me feel different, because you were right. Love is unconditional. 9 years ago, you overcame your fears and gave yourself the best gift anyone could have ever given you: the power to live your life the way you wanted. I want to thank you for your bravery that day and every day since. I want to thank you for teaching me the importance of honesty and self-respect. And most importantly, I want to thank you for teaching me how to dance. I love you, Dad. You make me so proud to be your daughter.